All right, we are live back on Steel City. We are on the Andre Duke Show with Carter Smith YouTube channel. Like to welcome everybody in. If you can hit that like and subscribe button and help us grow this thing. So we are live today. We're going to be going over the Aaron Rodgers saga. If you can, throw whatever questions or comments you have in the chat down there. We're going to be covering pretty much all things Steelers today. This is going to be more of an NFL-driven show. So with that being said, so let's get into it. Aaron Rodgers, it's been reported by pretty much every media outlet that he went to go throw with DK Metcalf. That is a positive sign going forward for the Steelers. I think that what we're looking at here is a delayed. How do I want to put this? It's delayed, but do I think Aaron Rodgers is gonna sign with the Steelers? Yes. It's just pretty much a matter of when at this point. I think he's going to hold out a little bit and make sure he makes the right decision. It's not too crazy that Aaron would do something like this. I think also that I don't think it would be the end of the world if he waits. Sorry. But yeah, that's just pretty much where we're at right now. Just playing some of the waiting game that goes into it. Trying to get everything, all the ducks in the row. I think that it's one of those things that, Aaron wants to make the right decision going forward for him and the Steelers. It seems like everything Mike Tomlin said. Carter chiming in, discount double check in the Berg. Yeah, maybe we can bring out that State Farm. The belt again, maybe. I'm not 100% sure on what or where that stands. I think that Aaron Rodgers is probably – it's a foregone conclusion that I believe he's going to sign. Now, what the big question I have is what are the Steelers going to do in the draft? I mean, you can look at all the mock drafts and everything like that. Are they going to take a quarterback? Are they going to go offensive line? Are they going to go defensive line? I talked a little bit about that yesterday. I think what we have going forward, I think pretty much the top of the draft is solidified. Anywhere in between Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Shador Sanders, Cam Ward are going to be the top guys off the board. The Steelers, I don't believe, have a second-round pick, so that kind of puts them at a little bit of a disadvantage. I am trying to pull that up currently. The Steelers they picked 21 in the first round, 19th in the third, 21st in the fourth, 20th in the fifth, 9th in the sixth, and 13th in the seventh. Now, one of the things that I think the Steelers could do is they could maybe package some of next year's picks to move up if they really like a guy that they really want. I think Aaron Rodgers as the long-term solution, we're lying to ourselves when it comes down to that. I think that where the Steelers are sitting is not in a terrible position, but they just don't have a lot of picks to navigate going forward. No second round pick kind of hurts. I wouldn't mind seeing trading a seventh to move into the second round. Maybe later second round at best if somebody wants to trade out of that, or maybe possibly move up. Do I think that they're going to get rid of the 21st pick? No, I don't believe that's going to be on the table. First round draft picks are too valuable at this point in the NFL. You can see what the Commanders did with Jaden Daniels. They ended up, I think, getting the gem of last year's draft class, just for the simple fact of they didn't really do a whole bunch of bartering. They traded a lot of their capital away this year. They ended up with Deebo Samuel. So I think that where it's sitting right now, they're in a good spot. Cam Ward obviously isn't going to be there now. Where I think it gets interesting for the Steelers is, do they take the kid out of Louisville? I've heard Jalen Milroe kicked around. I'm just telling you right now, I don't like that pick. I don't want a guy that you've got to throw around and experiment and try to build a project. Two guys that I really like, if they wanted to get them at the end of the first round, the three guys that stick out to me, if they decide to do something else, is Jackson Dart, the kid from Louisville, Will Howard, possibly Quinn Ewers. Curtis Rourke is going to be out there. He was injured at the end of the year last year. I'm not a super big fan of Kyle McCord. He turned the ball over a lot last year. He led in passing, led in attempts, and also led in interceptions. He had that one really bad game against Pitt going forward. So I think that, where it's sitting, quarterback is something that I would like to see as trying to get somebody for the long-term solution here in Pittsburgh, to where we don't have to end up in a situation like we did last year. You've got to go try to recycle somebody else's trash or somebody else's treasure, depending upon how you look at it. Russ faded at the end of the last year. Wish Russ nothing but the best up there in New York. Good luck to you, Russ. You have no running game. Their running game is sitting in Philadelphia right now. I don't think the Steelers should go after a wideout. They're going to have Wilson back off of injury. He missed all of last year. Maybe there's something that, maybe another late round pick could help them out tremendously. The addition of DK Metcalf, George Pickens, maybe Wilson can slide into that slot position and fit nicely with an Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is, one of the best passers of football in NFL history. He has lost a fistful of NFC championship games, but also he never really, outside of being in New York, and let's be real here, when it comes to the Jets, let's be real. The New York Jets is one of the most poorly ran franchises in the NFL, outside of the Browns, Raiders, and kind of the Giants now. So both teams in New York are absolute dumpster fires. Some of the guys that I would put on my board if they're there, Travion Henderson out of Ohio State, maybe a reunition with him and Will Howard in the backfield. I don't think that would be a terrible idea. Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Johnson, Cam Scattaboo, another guy that I think will probably maybe fall because I don't think he'll test. I don't think his test numbers were what NFL scouts were looking for. The the thing with Scadaboo is that he's just a football player. That is exactly what Cam Scadaboo is. So I think that, going forward, a guy that I think that also might be around in the later rounds is I don't think they're going to go tight end, but if you can get him for some decent value, maybe in the later 6th or 7th round, if he's around there, is Mitchell Evans out of Notre Dame. I don't think he may be there. I don't know if the Steelers are going to roll tight end, but another guy that could be around in the later rounds is a MAC kid, defensive tackle Darius Alexander. Played at Toledo, looked really good. You have Tyleik Williams that'll be out there, another draftable guy. He completely was dominant down the stretch at Ohio State on that national championship run. So a guy that you could go up and get, maybe he might slide as Walter Nolan, somebody to play in the middle. I don't know how well he would fit scheme-wise. I think the Steelers are okay at linebacker, but a lot of the quote-unquote draft analysts have been mocking a corner to the Steelers, and out of the corners, looking at the guys that I would want that would possibly be around in the first round would be a Benjamin Morrison, Trey Amos out of Ole Miss. He's a 6'1" corner. Benjamin Morrison got hurt at the end of last year, so he didn't have as much tape. But Benjamin Morrison, 6 foot, would be a nice complementary piece to put on the other side of Joey Porter. But it just depends upon where they want to go, if they want to build this thing for the long term, or if they're going to try to go slide the chips to the middle of the table, kind of like what the Jets did, and sell the future down the road to possibly maximize it and see if Aaron Rodgers has one good run left in him. I think they're okay on edge rushers, but I also think that, if they decide to get one, Mike Green out of Marshall, wowed people at the Senior Bowl. We can see what he's got. And also another guy that I really liked out of Texas A&M, Nick Scorton. He led the Big Ten in sacks when he played in the Big Ten. Solid guy. He's a 6'3", 257. He played a lot with his hand in the dirt, and I think that could be a good addition in the later rounds going forward. So I think for the most part, I think the Steelers have a plan. With it being Pittsburgh, they do the big time. We draft as an organization, and when we're wrong, we're wrong. At the end there, Kevin Colbert had, some guys that they swung and missed on, the Jarvis Jones, the Bud Duprees, and that's just one thing that, the Steelers got to get it wrangled on what they want to do and what they want to do going forward. I don't think that there's anything too crazy out there that's out of the realm of possibility. The team's built upon a run game and defense, so I wouldn't mind seeing a Travion Henderson or a Cam Scadaboo taken in maybe the 3rd or 4th round, depending upon if they go quarterback with the 1st overall pick. I don't think, if there's a guy that you really like, it's came out, Will Howard has said that in interviews that he's met with the Steelers, so I think that's a good sign. So that's where we're kind of at. I don't think that there's anything crazy going to fall off anything, but at the owners' meeting, all the discussions with Rodgers are heading in the right direction. Um, the throwing session just goes, I think, a long way with DK Metcalf, and that's something that I would like to keep an eye on if Aaron Rodgers does decide to sign. I think this could be one of the better cores of wide receivers he's played with in his career. The big thing when it comes to Rodgers is that it's not going to be like the Jets. The Steelers are an old school franchise to where they, whenever they make a decision, it's their decision. I don't think you're going to see guys that he played with in the past, like the Jets brought in Randall Cobb, they brought in Lazard. I don't think you're going to see that type of roster movement to a, how do I want to say this, appease Aaron Rodgers. I think that's something he's also weighing in heavily. And if you look back last year, the Steelers won some games with, subpar quarterback play. Russ didn't play great, but, you have the Mason Rudolph factor in there, and they're going to roll 4 quarterbacks into camp. I think you're going to get, I think if they draft a quarterback, I think Mason Rudolph will stay and probably be the backup. And I would say Aaron Rodgers is probably going to sign a 2-year deal at maximum, maybe a 3rd year with a team option, depending on how it's going. I don't think that there's a whole bunch of room for quote unquote longevity there. I think you got to get a guy in the draft. You got to get a guy that is willing and able to want to hop in and roll it right away, just for the simple fact of you need somebody that can come in behind him and replace Aaron Rodgers. That's the big thing. I know it sounds dumb that, why are we doing this, but the thing of it is that whenever Ben retired, there was no answer there. Nobody was wanting to hop in and try to replace him, and I don't think that they want to get in that position again. I mean, as Steeler fans, do you really want to be watching Mitch Trubisky again? So I think we all seen how that panned out, the Mitch Trubisky, Kenny Pickett saga. It's just one of those things that, you got to get it rolling. And the big side of it is that you have to have somebody, quote unquote, in the wings waiting to take over the job, because when Aaron calls it quits, you don't know when that's going to be. That's something that I think that, Tomlin and Omar Khan and Mr. Rooney have probably sat and talked about and said, hey, when Ben retired, we really didn't have any options. And, some of the things that are rolling out there were, they drafted Pickett out of Pitt. I didn't like the pick personally, just for the simple fact of it. I don't think it meshed well. And then if the stuff that allegedly happened at the end of the tenure when they signed Russ, then they traded for Justin Fields, and then they signed Russ. It was kind of a comedy of errors. And then Kenny gets dealt to. He was a first-round pick, and Kenny gets dealt to the Eagles for basically a little of nothing. And you fast forward 3 years, Tomlin didn't have a losing season, but you fast forward 3 years, you're kind of in the same boat you were then that you are now. I think quarterback play has held the Steelers back. The defense didn't play well down the stretch. I believe it was they lost 4 in a row to end the year, but I think that, that being said, Rodgers was in the top 10 in the NFL looking at the numbers now. So that's just something to keep an eye on. And I think, getting, even if Rodgers is a top 15 quarterback, it still helps the Steelers. I mean, he threw for more yards than Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Brock Purdy, Kyler Murray, Bo Nix, even though Bo Nix was a rookie, Stafford. So, and Rodgers played all 17 games. So I think that's something that, that needs to be taken into account. And plus he's coming off an Achilles injury, but we're at the 20-minute mark. So everybody out there watching on Twitter, come on over to YouTube and join the discussion and hit that like and subscribe button to help us grow this show. We're trending in the right direction over here. This is the second episode of Steel City, more of an NFL-based podcast. It's a little bit of a change of pace from what we do on the night show. So if you could hit that like and subscribe button and help us grow this thing, that would be super. So, but with that being said, let's get into some of the stuff that's kind of floating around the league. I think that when you go down the list here, we could go around the division. Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens didn't have a ideal ending to their season at the end of the year. The Mark Andrews thing up there in Buffalo, that was something that was unfortunate. The Steelers did sneak one against them at home, which I was at that game. So I think Lamar in Baltimore, I don't know if that window's closing or not. Lamar's been playing great. He threw 41 touchdowns. So I think that Lamar and the Ravens are, they're trying to get up there and trying to contend with everybody. The beast was slaying. That was Kansas City by the Eagles. The Eagles caught lightning in a bottle. A lot of people, including your boy, thought they were going to do a little bit of an implosion because the Eagles fans were ready to run Sirianni out of there. And I know that it probably bothers the Mara Rooney family that the Eagles won the Super Bowl. That's your cross-state, kind of rival, and the Mara family's big rival. So I think the Steelers want to get competitive again, and they want to get people excited. And the Aaron Rodgers thing definitely puts the Steelers in the conversation. If Aaron Rodgers is going to be Aaron Rodgers, being a elite passer of the football. So one of the interesting teams that I think going forward is going to be the Cleveland Browns. What do the Cleveland Browns do over at the number 2 overall pick? I mean, the Deshaun Watson thing, all the fallout that's happened from there, the swing and a miss proclamation by Jimmy Haslam. At least it only took him like 3 years to take some ownership of that move. They moved off of Baker, even though Baker won a playoff game in the first time in how long in Cleveland Browns history. So I think it was very, very unique that Haslam took that stance on on coming out and saying, hey, we messed this up. So I think that's a big step in the right direction for the Browns. I know Browns fans are not big fans of Andrew Berry. They hate Andrew Berry. So he better win, or Cleveland's going to revolt here soon. And I don't think you can run Deshaun Watson out there. I think that ship has sailed. Do you trade him? You got to find a trade partner at some point. That's what I'm thinking. I don't know who that trade partner will be. You're probably going to have to eat a lot of dough to get rid of him. So that's where the Browns are kind of hanging. But the Cincinnati Bengals, they went out, they went and got Al Golden, which, Al Golden's turned into an elite defensive coordinator. we'll see. But, sometimes the NFL isn't about the plays, it's about the players, as my guy Tyler Siskey would say. It's about the players. And the Cincinnati Bengals are spending a crap ton of money on the offensive side of the ball. Do I think that they're going to spend any money on the defensive side of the ball? We'll have to see what they do in the draft. Hendrickson, I think, is coming back or might be coming back. I don't follow the Bengals that close, but, they got Joe Burrow, and as long as Burrow and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are there, I mean, they got a chip in a chair whether what the defense can do or not. And if they can have a elite defense to complement that side of the ball, it might be time to ask Joey B to, knock off $100 million and let us go get some defensive players to go win a Super Bowl. Mike Brown isn't getting any older or getting any younger as the days go by. I think it would be a very, very big deal in the Brown family's life to try to win a Super Bowl. I don't know why they're not going all in and trying to accomplish this. That's something that I think should be done. If I'm somebody that works in that organization, you gotta do something, because Marvin Lewis rebuilt that team 3 times, and Marvin Lewis was a hell of a coach. So I think that Cincinnati's they've been drafting well. So we'll see where that falls out. But it's kind of some of the guys that Baltimore brought in. They brought in Nelson Aguilar, which that might be a compliment. That might be another piece to help out Lamar Jackson. I think another underrated player is Amari Cooper being up there in Buffalo. So I think that it's something that they've got to do that they've got to add in. It's real tough up there. But, I think the AFC North is going to be the AFC North. It's going to be an absolute dogfight like it typically is every year. I think 10 games probably wins the division. Can the Steelers get to 10 games? But if Baltimore plays well down the stretch, I think it might be 12 or 13 on the high end. On the low end, you're looking possibly 10 games. But, Pittsburgh's been hovering around the 9-10 win mark. I think the last year that they won more than 10 games was with Ben. So I think that it going forward, and also Tomlin's got to win a playoff game to silence all the Tomlin haters. He's got to win a playoff game. That is something that I think it's got to be done. It would help. It would help a lot of things. TJ Watt's not getting any younger. Cam Hayward's running out of time. So I think that it would be good to try to send, Cam Hayward out with a Super Bowl, in which the Steelers don't typically draft or even make trades or sign big free agents. And Omar Khan has kind of taken a page out of the league's book, because the Steelers are kind of in unprecedented territory, in my opinion, by trading for Justin Fields, trading for or signing Russ. I think it's a bigger deal than what's going on in Pittsburgh now than what people have thought of in the past. Just looking at the odds, the Ravens are minus 130 to win the division. The Bengals plus 200, Pittsburgh's plus 550, and Cleveland's plus 2,500. I don't think anyone is shocked by that. I know certainly I am not. The Bills are overwhelming favorites to win the AFC East. I'll be interested if Eagles are minus money to win the NFC East again. So I think, a lot of things going forward. Some of the teams that you're really competing with are going to be Houston, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Kansas City, Los Angeles. I think will be better with Harbaugh. Bo Nix has another year. The Las Vegas Raiders getting Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll goes out and gets Geno Smith. But we all know the king of the hill in that division is the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think that, where we're rolling here, especially with the Chiefs, is that door closed? That's something that I think people need to look into or even look at. Does Kansas City have to get younger? That's something that I think needs to be looked at just off of my opinion. And, you look at some of the other teams, I like Buffalo as an overwhelming favorite to make it at least to the divisional final. I think the Bills have the firepower, especially at the addition of Mari Cooper. And Kansas City's going to be right in there. They're going to be right in the thick of things. It's 3 straight Super Bowl runs in a row, playing in all the way up until February. I think it's a bigger deal than what people want to make it out to be. Diving that deep into the playoffs. So I would look for Cincinnati to be improved. I think the overwhelming favorites are Kansas City, Buffalo. And then we'll look at the NFC here for a minute. Philadelphia, Detroit. I don't know why San Francisco is a big favorite here to win that West Division. I think the Rams are a more complete team. They got rid of Deebo Samuel in San Francisco, so I think that it's a big piece of their offense, in my opinion. So I think that, going forward, I like the Rams to win that division. So that's just something that I think to keep an eye on. Will not St. Louis Cardinals, but will the Arizona Cardinals be any different than what they were last year? I don't think that the Cardinals – I think there'll be a 7-9, 8-9 team again. They got Marvin Harrison Jr., although they did get an upgrade at the offensive line coach position in Justin Fry. He built some really good offensive lines, put a lot of players in the league from Ohio State. So I think getting Coach Justin Fry out there in Arizona might help Kyler Murray. From all things that I've heard, is Justin Fry's inspiring to be a head coach. Maybe he does well there and he can keep climbing the ladder. I'm sure he's loving not having to have to recruit and police sitting out in front of his house because crazy Ohio State fans want to come after him. So the lunatic fringe, as Herb Street refers to them as. So I think Arizona, they could be a wild card in this whole endeavor. The New York Giants going to the East are just bad. Dallas, they have a lot of money committed to Dak. Does the addition of Deebo Samuels get the Commanders over the hump? That is going to be the big question moving forward. So I think when we look at this, the Commanders are most likely a playoff team. I think Dallas is dead in the water unless they do something immaculate in the draft, maybe trade Dak, but I don't know who would take that contract. Maybe Cleveland. Just flip-flop them. I mean, I don't think you're going to be out much money there either way. Tampa Bay is the overwhelming favorite in the NFC South, with Atlanta being in second, Carolina in third, and the Saints in dead last. The Saints are I don't know. I don't even know how to unpack the Saints. They are in salary cap misery. So that is something to look at. I don't know. It's and you have Derek Carr, and he has a big contract. So Saints fans, good luck. But we'll talk about the AFC South. Houston, no shocker there, overwhelming favorites to win that division. Year 3 for C.J. Stroud. He took a little bit of a step back last year, had a little bit of sophomore slump. Can C.J. Stroud elevate now that the book is out on him? That's going to be one thing I'll be interested to see. You know, they made a change at offensive coordinator. They moved away from Bobby Slowick. He is out. So that is something to look into. You have Mr. Duval down there, Liam Cohen, the head coach of the Jaguars. I don't know what they're going to be. Can Trevor Lawrence figure it out? That's going to be the big question. They paid him a crap ton of money to be their quarterback one of the future. So I think that, you know, looking at this going forward, Jacksonville would be the biggest threat. And see, the Colts are interesting. It'd be interesting to see what the Colts do. I believe they've signed Daniel Jones. Can Danny Dimes turn it around and make it? You know, the Colts are picking top 15. They had some heartbreaking losses this year. The loss to the Giants on the road, a bad loss. They got smacked at Denver. Got smacked. They just had a really bad stretch where they ran into the Texans, at the Vikings, home against the Bills. Those are 3 playoff teams. They did end up beating the Steelers. They lost to Green Bay, and they lost to Houston early in the regular season. So if that's any indicator for the Colts fans out there, you got to win your division games. I think that is something that is an understatement in the league, teams winning divisional games. So it was something to be said. And I think up there in Seattle, it's going to be very interesting to see what Sam Darnold does as far as the longevity. Can he sustain and do what he did there? And the owners' meetings are really, really tough. And so there's a lot of immediate availability. Just changing gears here, but the immediate availability. And then just now breaking, Jerry Jones gives a interview and says a long-term contract for Micah Parsons isn't far off. So I guess Jerry Jones is the only owner in the NFL that holds routine press conferences because people really want to hear what Jerry's got to say, which is very fascinating to me because I could really care less, to be honest with you. I get it. He's the general manager, but Jerry ain't won since Jimmy left. So I think, with that being said, it's something that, that's Jerry Jones is pulling the strings up there in Dallas. So we'll see. The Steelers last year finished the year 10-7, Cincinnati 9-8, and Cleveland 3-14. So I think that's something to be said. But I think the Steelers need to find a long-term solution also at quarterback and also at running back. Could Scadaboo be that guy? I don't know. But I wouldn't hate the Scadaboo pick as long as it's in the later rounds. The departure of Najee Harris, I thought that was kind of interesting, taking pot shots at the Steelers, saying the training facilities are bad. What do you want them to do? And to end the year, the Steelers did lose 4 games. Lost to the Bengals by 2, lost to the Chiefs on Christmas Day, got blown out against Baltimore, and lost to the Eagles, the eventual Super Bowl champs. So I think in the Fields tenure, he went 4-1, and then Russ lost that game to Dallas and then won 6 games in a row with capping it off against the Ravens, and that was a big emotional win. So, but we'll get to the rest of the show after the break here. If you're watching on Twitter, come on over to YouTube, click that link and come on over and hit that like and subscribe button and help us grow this thing. I know everybody, it's on the ticker below. I know everybody is probably tired of hearing me say that by now, but if you hit that like and subscribe button, that helps us tremendously. And it's something that, we're trying to do. It's a personal goal of mine to get this rolling. And so with that being said, we will get back to the show here. And also check out Out Pouches. No big hands, not lying in anybody's pocket. Check out Out Pouches for a discount /Duke Show. If it's one of the finest nicotine pouches on the market, if that is your thing. So outpouches.com, I believe, /Duke Show. But if you hit up me or Carter, Carter will be willing to send you that so you can get a little bit of a discount. So, with that being said, so we'll get there. Najee Harris, we'll just go over some ballpark big picture stats from last year. Even though Pickens was hurt a little bit, Russ only played 11 games last year, averaged 225, 16-5, but he was also sacked 33 times. But I think Russ caused a lot of his own sacks. Jaylen Warren carried the ball 120 times for 511 yards. You're losing a 1,000-yard back, and also, but it's only 6 touchdowns. So, was Najee Harris productive? He got I believe, a 1-year deal in LA with the Chargers. So I think that it's something that has got to be looked at 100% as far as addressing the running back thing. Because they signed, I believe, Kenneth Gainwell and Slay and some other key pieces. But you go to the passing attack. Pickens only played in 14 games. George has got to score touchdowns. They got to get George the ball out on the perimeter. I think with the addition of DK Metcalf, that's going to help a lot. Arthur Smith is going to have some more weapons this year. Calvin Austin, Freiermuth, and George Pickens were the leading receivers last year. Maybe we'll see, Najee caught 36 balls for two tutties, so a total of 8 touchdowns and 1,300 yards walked out the door. So I'm not totally upset with Najee completely being gone. Wishing nothing but the best. So I think that that's something to be said. And if you look at the defensive side of the ball here real quick, Patrick Queen, a tackling machine, Mika Fitzpatrick, hell of a player. Cam Hayward was in on the noise, and so was Peyton Wilson, the young kid out of NC State, which when they drafted him, I was excited because he's a ball-playing Jesse. But, if you look at the sack production-wise, T.J. Watt, Cameron Hayward, Alex Highsmith. So I think that will the Steelers bring more pressure this year? I wouldn't doubt it. And also, I think, the addition of Patrick Queen was huge for this year. And I think going forward, Patrick Queen is a guy that I think can help you win a Super Bowl. Signing him away from Baltimore was a big get. So I think that it's something that could be said, but if you go to the playoff game for Russ, he was 20 of 29 for 270 yards and threw 2 touchdowns. It just wasn't enough. The defense couldn't hold up. So I think that there's something to be said. I think for this team, there's a lot of meat on the bone left. And, you go back to, the Pickett years. I mean, Kenny's final year, he threw 6 touchdowns with 4 picks. And Mason comes in off the bench, plays 4 games, 55 of 74. He went to Tennessee this past year. I think Tennessee was in a complete rebuild, and I don't think that helped the Mason Rudolph camp at all. And I think he kind of got out there and realized he wasn't the guy, and they let him walk, but now he's back. It's very interesting and very telling. Trubisky, I believe, is back in Buffalo, probably being a backup. But Pickett could be possibly quarterback 1, maybe. I don't know. That's just something also to look at, a little food for thought. But, Pickens had more yards under Pickett with the same amount of touchdowns, and also Deontay Johnson. Don't know where that guy's at, but, he kind of a-holed his way out of town. He's a-holed his way pretty much everywhere else he's wanted to be, kind of like Stephon Diggs. So that is where we're at. But the last, in closing thoughts here, does anybody in the chat have any questions that they want to come on over to YouTube and throw in the chat that we can get answered? That's what we got. That's what we got now. So, and we'll kind of do a little team dive here for last year. The Steelers averaged 22.4 points a game, 380 total. Only scored 37 touchdowns. Not a high-scoring team. The Steelers weren't. So I think that one of the things that they got to get better at is third down efficiency. They were 90 for 228. They were only converting just under 40% of the time. So I think that they got to get better on third down, and the Steelers didn't really give up a ton of yards on the ground, but the problem is that it was at inopportune times. That is something that does not bode well for them. So that is what one of the things that I'm looking at. And they also got to get the time of possession was not – it was pretty much even for the most part. But, when you're barely converting under 40% on third down, I don't think that's a great number. Somebody will probably say, oh, that's, league average, but that is something that, I think that they could improve upon. And I think this is the year that Pickens has got to be that go-to guy. He's got to take that next step to be the alpha 1 receiver, especially bringing in DK. I mean, DK, has had some critics in the past as far as one of the big things he's known for is chasing that guy down. But I think that they can be productive and they can win some matchups here and, set themselves apart. But it's, it all goes back to who's handling the ball. I think the Steelers, they have a better fighting chance than with Rodgers than without Rodgers. I think Rodgers is a really good addition to this team. He can, I think, maybe get them over the hump. But, it's going to depend on who is running the ball, and there's a lot of things that go into it. I just don't want to see the Steelers squander an opportunity again in the playoffs. Getting a playoff win for this team, I've harped on this before, but getting a playoff win for this team is massive. It is monumental. It could really help right right a lot of wrongs going forward, just for the simple fact of, we got a lot of things, a lot of moving parts. The team, I still think the Super Bowl window is open for all intents and purposes, just as long as you can get that elite ball spinner back there and try to get some type of thing carved out to where there's some type of consistency. There's not, is Russ going to start or is Justin going to start? Because a lot of times when you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one. And I think that, last year, I think Tomlin finally decided we've got to get somebody that can help me win football games, because it's been very subpar. The Pickett years, ever since Ben retired, it's been subpar. And I think the Steelers now have realized the last couple of years, hey, we might want to start planning for the future and start figuring this thing out. I wouldn't be shocked if the Steelers draft a quarterback and Aaron Rodgers doesn't sign. I wouldn't be shocked by that at all. I don't know if it'll infuriate Aaron or what it'll do, but they've had productive meetings. But you got to root for the logo on the front of the jersey instead of the one on the back. I think, some fans have a hard time distinguishing that, because a lot of times they do like the stories with some of the guys, like, it's, like when people got upset when Harrison moved on, but he went to the Patriots and the Bengals and all kinds of foolishness that James did. So, and sometimes the players got to look out for themselves. Maybe Pittsburgh isn't the right fit for Aaron Rodgers, but at the end of the day, you've got to get somebody in there that can win football games, because it's just something that's not going to be tolerated with the organization, because I think Tomlin's fed up with it. I think Mr. Rooney's fed up with it, and Omar Khan is too as well. So I think that's why they're going this drastic route to bring in an Aaron Rodgers, because this is in, when you had Ben from 04 to 21, I believe, 21 or 22, I can't remember which year he retired, but it's something that you haven't had to deal with. And there was a lot of time between Bradshaw and Ben. That was 89 to 04. It was a long time in there. Did they have some guys that played pretty decent and won some football games? Cordell, Tommy Fireball, and Maddox ended up biting the dust. But, you had Neil O'Donnell, Bubby Brister, and it was a long way. And Mr. Rooney made the change from Chuck Noll to not Mike Tomlin, but Bill Cowher, and Bill Cowher to Tomlin. So there's a lot of longevity in this organization. So I think what they're doing now is that they're hearing the call to win, because I think they're tired of drafting well and not having one position that holds them back, they haven't had to replace in a long, long time. So I believe that's something that in the echo chambers they're hearing, but, a lot of times they don't hear the outside noise. But, I mean, obviously, if you have two eyeballs, you could have seen Kenny Fireball and Pickett was not the guy. So it was something that needed to be addressed. And I give kudos to Omar Khan, Mike Tomlin, and Mr. Rooney trying to go out and address it in the biggest way to try to bring them the best guy that's left on the market in to win football games, because losing years just don't happen in Pittsburgh. Tomlin's never had one. He's had years where he didn't make the playoffs, but it's different from not having 7 back there. And some people can say, "Oh, you're living in the past. You're living in the past." Well, when 7 was out there, you always had a chip in a chair with 7. I don't care what anybody says. You had a chip in a chair. I mean, and a lot of people didn't think he was elite or whatever foolishness they were talking about. So I think that that's something that could be said. And also, I would kind of like to know, if you're watching this and you made it this far, leave in the comments, who do you think's going to win the national championship for college basketball, and who's going to be the Steelers' first round pick? That's something to look into. Um, could it be Jackson Dart? Could it be Will Howard? Could it be a running back? I think there's a lot of options on the table, but I don't think the Steelers are going to hold their plan for what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. I think that it's a kind of a foregone conclusion that Cam Hayward came out and said you either want to be a Pittsburgh Steeler or not, and then all of a sudden the conversations and everything got productive, and Mike Tomlin was asked at media day on his communications with Aaron Rodgers, and he said, "I'm going to leave that between me and Aaron." I just don't know why you even asked that question, because you already know Tomlin isn't going to give you an answer. I mean, if you've ever watched Mike Tomlin press conferences, they're about like watching paint dry. And that's no kudos to, and that's no knock on Tomlin. I mean, give me one time when an NFL coach has said something interesting that I can't believe he said that. I mean, it's the same way with Belichick. That good luck in Chapel Hill with that. I hope their press corps is prepared for no access and not knowing anything of what's going on. So I'm sure that the days of maybe being able to sit up there with old Mac Brown and watch practice, yeah, those days are pretty much over. So it's going to turn into a fortress down there at North Carolina, to where, and also Belichick doesn't have to deal with the NFL injury policies, which that's going to be a dandy. I think it'll be interesting. I know this is kind of off subject, but it's going to be very interesting to see how Bill Belichick bends the rules in college football, because I guarantee you that if there's anybody that's going to bend the rules and get one over on you, kind of like Dan Lanning did on Ohio State, it's going to be Bill Belichick. So, yeah, so as we start to wind down, if I had a pick, if I'm the Tennessee Titans, I'm drafting Travis Hunter number 1. That's my best, last, and final. I think if Travis Hunter goes 1, but I think it's going to be Cam Ward, because the Titans just need a quarterback. The Will Levis experiment obviously didn't work. Maybe a little too much mayonnaise in the coffee. And too many bad videos on the internet leaked out. So I think the Will Levis thing is done in Tennessee. I would say that he will not get his option picked up. I would think he's going to be on the market within 2 years. Will Levis will be a free agent looking for some place to land. That is, if Cam Ward comes in there. And I mean, the bar is not very high for quarterback play ever since, Tannehill kind of fell off the map, and then everybody said Derrick Henry was washed. And we see how that turned out for everyone. Derrick Henry, pretty much outside of Saquon Barkley's outstanding year, how did Derrick Henry do? Outstanding. So a bunch of touchdowns helped the Ravens. So that's also something that, the Steelers got to contend with, is Derrick Henry, Lamar, that whole nucleus going forward. So that is something that is going to be good to keep an eye on. And then, you got training camp coming up soon. By the time the draft's here, it'll be almost go time to strap it up and go. And then I don't know about you, but on the jalapenos, on the scale of jalapenos, how excited am I for preseason football? 1. Because anymore, I really don't even know why they do it anymore. To be honest with you, preseason football is such a waste of time, and especially the people that's the beat that have to go and attend that and watch that and try to decipher what that was. I don't begrudge anybody on how they make a living, but man, that is a tough 3-hour sit to watch a whole bunch of guys that'll they've made it, but, just it is what it is. But with that being said, we're closing in on an hour at this point. So if you're watching on Twitter, come on over, hit that like and subscribe button and help us grow this thing. And that is Steel City for today. And we'll give Carter some more pub here. Discount double check in the Berg. We'll see. Hopefully it works out. But with that being said, hit that like and subscribe button. Help us grow this thing. And you can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. We have a show page on Twitter as well. So the evening show will be on tonight. And also that is a more college football centric show. So if that's not really your thing, that is what it is. But you can catch me here. I don't know if we're going to settle on 9 or 10 yet, or 9:30 or 10 o'clock yet. So we'll see what we come up with, but just turn those bell notifications on so you always catch the latest and greatest from what we're doing over here at Steel City on the Andre Duke Show with Carter Smith. So with that being said, everybody have a good rest of the day. See you tonight.